Hello, everyone. Eric from Helps YouTube Live. Glad to have you here today on December 1st, 2025. My name's Eric, attorney now for 46 years, founder of Helps. Helps stands for Help Eliminate Legal Problems for Seniors. That's what we talk about on our YouTube site live sessions here Monday through Thursday. And good to have you here. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat feature and I'll try to address them there. Should be able to do that. If I miss one, you just ask me to look back and I'll see if I can find it. Okay. Good to have. Hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving. And we hopefully by listening to the videos today, you'll answer some questions and assure people that are having problems financially. Like I said, HELP stands for Help Eliminate Legal Problems for Seniors. Our most important message to seniors is that your income is protected. Federal and state laws protect your Social Security, your pension, your disability, your VA benefits from debt collectors. Can't be taken from you. And there's even a federal law that was passed in 2012 that provides that if someone sues you and gets a judgment, they would try to garnish your bank account. Your bank will automatically protect twice the amount of your federal benefits that you get, like your Social Security, in your bank. Twice the amount you get each month is protected automatically, regardless of the actual source of funds in your account. So your money's going to be protected in your bank account. So if you got $1,500 in Social Security, $3,000 in your bank account is protected. Now, you don't even need to worry about this unless someone were to sue you and get a judgment. And if they sued you, that doesn't mean they can take your money out immediately. They have to get a judgment, and that would take probably 30, 60, 90 days before that would ever happen. So you'd have plenty of time to consolidate your banks into one account to which Social Security goes. And then that amount is protected up to twice the amount. Okay. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to try to, the topic for today is, are my kids, well, for the beginning, we're going to talk about a lot of things, a lot of questions that people have, that I'm going to answer, but I'm going to start talking about, are my children responsible for my debt? Okay. And let me see if I can get that up. Okay, just a minute here. How do I do this here? Here we go. There we go. I'm assuming you can see that. I'm told by my tech guy that you can. So hopefully you can see it. So this is an article from MoneyWise, and it says, my mom, 85, has stopped paying her credit card and is already $25,000 of debt. But will I eventually be the one to feel the impact of her free fall? So a lot of times seniors will call us and they're worried about their kids being responsible for their debt, or kids will too. Not always, but we get the questions fair amount. And let's see what this article says. And it talks about Jean, who's 51, who cares for her elderly mother. We don't know how, mother's 85 years old. And it says, mom has stopped paying her credit card debt over the past year. Following a terminal diagnosis, she has spent much of her life living frugally and now has expressed some regrets about not enjoying life more. And mom's income financial picture is modest. She gets $1,300 a month from Social Security and $1,600 from her late husband's pension. She has a home that's held in a trust. And then it asks, what debts can the collectors go after? And first it says they must first take a borrower to court and obtain a judgment. Once they have a judgment, they may be able to pursue certain assets through protections, though protections vary on state law. It said generally a judgment allows creditors to pursue things like non-exempt values, jewelry, antiques, collectibles, a second car or luxury vehicle, uh, bank accounts, unless they're specifically exempt, real estate, although a home and irrevocable trust may be protected. And it says here in Marie's case, uh, most of her assets are protected. So, well, let's talk about that first. Um, I'm 74. Been an attorney for 46 years. Probably filed 30 or 40,000 bankruptcies before help started, and the help started back in 2012. Um, is it the practice? Does mom who stopped paying these credit card debt, or you, if you're a senior, do you have to worry about the creditors taking your property? Well, I'll tell you what my experience is. You know, it's not the practice of consumer judgment creditors like a credit card company or a bank loan or to go after a person's property. Uh, they don't do it. See, almost every state has what's called exemption laws to protect a certain amount of equity in property, like so much equity in a car, so much equity in household goods, so much equity in a home. Okay. Now, I've never in my entire practice seen a creditor go after anyone's household goods, even if that person may have had household goods worth over the exemption. Maybe the exemption for the state is 3,000. They simply don't do it. Can they do it? I suppose it's theoretically possible, but they don't for a number of reasons. So they're not going to go after a home. They're not going to go after a car generally. Okay, be a very rare exception. Um, no, they're not going to go after a home, even if you have equity in your home over and above the homestead exemption. They pretty much limit their attempts trying to garnish a bank account. But if you're a senior and you have your Social Security deposit in your bank account, twice the amount of your federal benefit deposit in your account is automatically protected from garnishment. So if Marie got 1,500 or she got what 1,600 in Social Security, twice that would be $3,200 in her bank account would be protected automatically from garnishment. And then it talks about the home. It talks about an irrevocable trust. Most of the time that would be protected, but there's other ways to protect a home. So let's look at what else the article says here. Okay. Let me see here. I think you can see that. What assets can a debt collector go after? Can you inherit debt? Well, the daughter's biggest concern is what happens when her mother eventually passes away. Will she and her siblings inherit the $25,000 in debt? And it says the short answer is no, and the article is correct. They don't inherit the debt unless they co-sign on the debt, which is they didn't do that. Kids normally don't co-sign on their parents' debt. And it talks about the trust protecting the home, but even otherwise, there'd be other ways to protect the home. Then how to help elderly family members manage their debt, and goes on. And that's it. So generally the article is accurate. Mom, if you're an elder and you're a senior, uh, yeah, you're not going to need to worry about your parent, your kids owing your debt. Okay. Okay. Um, and I'll deal with questions as they come here. I'll let people talking amongst themselves, which is fine. Okay. So, This person contacts us, reached out to us from Arkansas. And they say, I'm 70 years old and retired from my job in Missouri because of health issues. I moved back to Arkansas to be near my children. I plan on working in Arkansas, but no one will hire me because of my age. I've had knee surgery and have osteoarthritis and have a hard time walking without limping. And he says, he goes on to explain that he has a student loan that he owes a lot of money on, and about 30 or 40,000 in credit card debt. And less than that, 17,000 in credit card debt. My total retirement income, he says, is Social Security. He gets about a little bit under $2,000 a month in Social Security, and a little bit of retirement from a job, which brings his income to just a tad over $2,000. I pay for Medicare and prescription plans, which I must keep because I have certain medical condition. He says, I did not want to retire until my debt was paid off, but my medical problems have become an issue. What can I do? My credit cards are just about maxed out, and I cannot do anything about it. I am presently living with my daughter, because even if I was not in debt, rent here is generally $1,000 a month or more. Couldn't afford rent, so he's living with his daughter. He's got student loans of $30,000 essentially, and credit card debt of $17,000. So, what can he do? Well, his Social Security is protected, and so is his pension. He doesn't need to pay the student loan, nor does he need to pay the credit card debt. As far as the student loans, they're not doing anything right now. Last June, the Department of Education announced that they're no longer making attempts to collect from seniors that are getting Social Security. And how much longer that's going to go on, I don't know. That's been in effect essentially since about 2018. And before that, it was possible for Social Security to be offset, 15% of Social Security to be offset. If you got, 2,000 Social Security, 15% would be what, $300 to be paid student loans. But they're not doing that anymore. And when they're going to start it up, I don't know. But if you're a lower income or modest income seniors or poor, in the past, you've been able to get on what's called an income-based repayment plan for your Social Security, for your student loan, and not have to pay it at all. And so I suspect if they started up, that will be the case again. So he doesn't need to worry about the 30,000 in student loans. What about the 17,000 in credit card debt? No. If he doesn't pay the credit card debt, they can call and harass him, and that can be stopped. What HELPS does is we represent seniors under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act as your attorney to stop debt collectors from calling you. So when a person finds out about HELPS, they call us on the phone, and then we ask some questions about their financial situation. Like this gentleman, we'd ask him, what his income is. Has he been sued? Buying a car, own a car? Is he buying a home, renting? Want to know some basic information. And then if he decides to enroll, the cost of HELPS is minimal. Some people get our help for free. We click a button and you're enrolled immediately. Okay. For example, today I talked to a daughter called on behalf of her mother, and her mother was on the phone, and the mother spoke Spanish, and I speak Pidgin Spanish. Used to be a lot better than I am now. But anyway, we talked about her situation, and mom had quite a bit of debt, and mom had a car. She had minimal income, but an expensive car payment. And one thing I suggested, maybe you could let the car go back, but mom didn't want to do that, and later found out that mom lived with the daughter, and the daughter was leasing a car which would expire this coming January. And when it expires in January, then they're just going to have one car, and that's the car that mom has payments on, and daughter's helping mom out. So they're going to keep that car. So that made sense. And we actually enrolled mom in helps right then because she was getting lots of calls from creditors. In fact, she had been sued by Midland Funding on a lawsuit, and I told her, don't need to go to court. When you enroll, you're going to send us a copy of the lawsuit. Usually, you need the first 3 or 4 pages. We're going to send a cease and desist. We're going to send a letter to the attorney that sued you, letting them know that your income is protected. You're not going to go to court. And reminded mom about her protected income, deposit in her bank account, twice the amount she got. And Social Security was automatically protected. Even if they got a judgment, they tried to garnish her bank account, her bank will protect twice the amount. So mom isn't going to need to worry. Okay. And we were able to enroll mom right then, which was good. So that's what we do. And if you have any of these questions, you can always call and talk to us. That's what we're here for. Um, let's see here. Okay. Next person contacts us from California, and they say, I'm in collections for a business credit card charge off by Capital One. The amount of the debt is close to $30,000. We sold the business to our son way back in 2016. The business failed, and he is filing for bankruptcy for the corporation and his personal bankruptcy. Because my name was listed on the account along with the corporation name, they're coming after me. Can you tell me my options and what the cost of your services are? So, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act applies to consumer debt, not business debt. But as far as helps is concerned, it doesn't really matter. We send a letter out to the creditors you owe money to, whether it's a business debt or a consumer debt. Your income is protected, period. So this guy doesn't tell us where his income is from, but I'm assuming he's retired and he's getting Social Security and a pension, so it's protected. He doesn't need to worry about being sued for almost $30,000 for a business credit card. Not going to be able to collect from him. So we're going to call him back and go over this, explain to him why he's going to be okay. Now, what's the cost of service? We don't turn anyone away. The most a person would pay to enroll in helps would be $40 for 24 months, then $20 for 24 months free thereafter, or $30 for 24 months, $15 for 24 months free thereafter, or $20 for 24 months, $10 for 24 months free thereafter, depending on your income. But we make it work from people. We don't want you to work. We don't want you to worry. Okay. This person contacts us and they say, please state exactly what information you need for each credit card. I'm a client who just enrolled. Okay. So, when you enroll in helps, we're going to ask you to get us the credit card or the debt creditors you owe money to, the collectors. And all we need is the name, address, and account number. We don't need the balance you owe. It's that simple. You can text it, fax it, email it, or mail it. Doesn't matter. Whatever works for you. Okay? Okay. Okay, so next thing, someone contacts us and they say, yes, good afternoon. My name is whatever. I'm 100% disabled combat veteran of Operation Iraqi Freedom. I currently have debt collection that is coming out of my Social Security disability each month for a credit card that I had a $4,000 balance on that credit card. It was called a military star card. Even though I have 4,000 balance, they have been collecting over 200 per month since 2021. So far, they've collected over 9,000 towards a $4,000 debt. That doesn't make sense. It sounds like the debt's been paid. I can't get them stopped taking it out, and they got me between a rock and a hard place because I can't pay the 4,000 because I don't have it. Really, I need some help to get this debt relinquished. Well, if you paid $9,000 since 2021, $4,000 in debt should certainly have been paid. So maybe he wrote down the wrong amount that he owes. So I'll explain this. A creditor, we already explained how a creditor can't take money out of your Social Security. The only exception is if it's a certain type of government debt. A government debt can offset 15% of your Social Security, like the IRS. And then with the IRS, you can often qualify for what's called currently not collectible status. I've already explained how student loans aren't taking money out of your Social Security, but there's other federal debt where they can offset 15% of your Social Security. And one of them could be like a military credit union or a military debt. They can offset 15% of your Social Security. Or like an SBA loan or rural development loan. But a way to stop that, if you look quite a bit, is you could file bankruptcy and stop it that way. Let me get muted here so you can't hear that. But anyway, we'll call this guy back and talk to him, get it straightened out. Person calls us and says, can I call your office for help with my credit card bills? Well, that's what we're here for. Yeah, you can always call us, 855-435-7787, numbers there. Okay. So this person contacts us from Texas. It's an existing client, and he says he got a letter. He got a letter from some letters from attorneys telling him or telling her that she's been sued. Okay. In fact, I talked to this person this morning. She lives in Texas and she's got a small home. And currently she's not living in the home. And it's not worth a whole lot, maybe around 50,000. Kind of a condo or something like that. It's not worth a lot, but it's worth something. And her name is on it. And she also owes taxes from about 10 years ago that she's been making payments on. And then she has taxes for $8,000 for last year. And she's paying taxes of $350 a month. So, and then she's got other debt as well. And I think she's been sued. So, I believe of course she's been sued because she got this letter saying she's been sued, although she hasn't been served with papers yet. So what I explained to her is that sometimes bankruptcy attorneys in different jurisdictions will send a letter. They subscribe to a service that lets them know if someone's been sued. So they'll send a letter to those people telling them about their bankruptcy services. And that's what she got. She got a couple letters from several different attorneys advertising their services. She doesn't need to file bankruptcy. In fact, filing bankruptcy would be a mistake for her. One reason is because she's not living in the home at this time. And what I explain is that if she establishes the home again as her homestead, if she lives in the home and she lives in Texas, then she could sell the home at some point in the future. No one could take the home from her. Texas has an unlimited homestead exemption. She could sell it in the future and get the money out of it. Or even now, if she could consider adding her son's name to the home as a joint owner with survivorship rights. She's not going to lose the home. Okay. Now, as far as the taxes are concerned, uh, the amount she's been paying on, the $350 a month, uh, were taxes that she owed from like 2013 or 2014. And the statute of limitations is close to having expired. The IRS can collect for 10 years. Now, sometimes the statute will stop while you're applying for an installment agreement, then it starts back up again. But when it's been 10 years, automatically you don't owe those taxes and the IRS isn't allowed to collect those. So I told her that you may want to consider on the $350 you're paying is when you send that check in to the IRS every month to put on there clearly that it's for payment for the 2024 taxes, because you want that to go to the 2024 taxes, because those old taxes that are nearly 10 years ago, 10 years old, are going to be uncollectible. If they're not uncollectible now, they will be shortly. The bottom line is I told her she's going to be fine. She's a helps client and she really doesn't have anything to worry about. She's going to be okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Um, let's see here. Okay. I've got some more things to talk about here. Person contacts us from Oregon. I spoke to someone this morning who said my number was going to be forwarded to another person who would be calling me back. I'm not sure when the call will be. I need help with my credit card bills because of several unexpected issues that have happened within the last few months. I've been falling behind on my bills and it's getting harder and harder to make payments, not affording money for food and other basic things. I'm 75 and have only my Social Security each month. Well, if that describes you, if your only income is Social Security or a pension and disability or VA benefit, retirement income, and you're having difficulty paying for your basic expenses like rent, maybe a house payment, maybe transportation, food, medicine, your income is protected. You can stop paying the debt. Okay. Now, what happens if the creditors call you? Well, that's what Helps does. We represent seniors so that you tell us who your creditors are. We're going to send them a cease and desist letter. They're going to leave you alone. We represent you ongoing so you never have to worry about debt collectors anymore. You can stop paying the debt. And the magic about Helps is that, if you got a collection notice from a new debt collector, maybe they sold it to a new debt collector 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, get us that new debt collector's name and address. We're going to send them a cease and desist letter. They're going to leave you alone. If you get sued, you're going to get us a copy of the lawsuit. We're going to talk to the attorney who sued you. We're going to inform them that your income is protected. You're not going to pay the debt, even if understand that you can get a judgment. We're going to call you and explain to you why you don't need to worry, why your bank account is protected. So don't need to worry. Okay. So here's another person. I think I talked to this person today. Um, they they owe an IRS tax debt, and she's worried about paying that. And she lives in Pennsylvania. Used to live in, if you remember right, in New Jersey. Um, Her income is 2,000 per month in Social Security, and she owed, I don't know, it was like 15,000 in IRS tax debt, and really worried about the IRS. Um, I told her she had a couple options. Okay, she could apply. We could send her an email, and she could apply now for what's called currently not collectible status with the IRS. And her income is low enough. Her expenses are more than what she gets, and she could easily qualify for currently not collectible status with the IRS. And that way, they're not going to send her any letters, and she didn't have to worry about paying them. I told her too, she could consider not doing anything. IRS is probably unlikely going to do anything. If they were going to do anything, what they would do normally would be send her a letter saying they intend to offset 15% of her Social Security after 60 days. But that would give her enough time to apply for currently not collectible status and not have to pay the tax debt. I'm seeing a lot of IRS tax collectors, or the tax IRS, not trying to collect on seniors that are just getting Social Security, uh, not trying to offset 15% of Social Security. Maybe their computer system tells them that. But she could apply for currently not collectible status, but I told her she probably didn't need to do that because they're probably not going to do anything. And if they did say they were going to offset 15% of Social Security, it would be after 60 days, so it'd give her enough time to apply for currently not collectible status. And then she wouldn't have to go through the headache of applying for it now. Kind of up to her. Okay. So this person writes us and they say, uh, will I be able to rent an apartment with debt in collections? Probably. It shouldn't be a problem. Uh, we have a letter that we call a landlord letter that we'll send to anyone, whether a member of HELPS or not, that explains to a prospective landlord that if someone has negative entries on their credit report, that their Social Security, their pension, their disability, their retirement income is protected, can't be taken from them, and will be available to pay their rent. And sometimes we'll send that to clients, and with a letter explaining that you show that to the landlord you're applying rent from. A lot of these landlords don't understand that your income is protected. And if you show that to them, then they might say, well, oh, okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, go ahead and let's get your application. Or they might say, well, we're corporate, we have corporate policies, I don't really have control. And if there's negative entries, you may not be able to, you could save your application fee. But yeah, we have what's called a landlord letter. Now, the other thing is if you're a member of HELPS for more than 90 days, if you want, we have a program, 7 Steps to a 720 credit score. You can rebuild your credit within a year and a half to 2 years. Um, your credit is based on your recent credit history, and you can rebuild your credit without paying the old debt. So as this old debt gets written off, it doesn't affect your credit anymore. So what they base your credit on is your recent credit history. Uh, Lawsuits don't appear on credit reports, and neither do judgments. Okay. Okay. I think I've got all the questions here. So let's go on with what we've got here. Does workers' compensation disability count as protected funds? Yeah, under state law, I'm I'm unaware of any state that doesn't protect workers' comp. Now, The issue is it protected in my bank account? Um, it may not be protected automatically in your bank account. So if someone had a judgment against you and they garnished your bank account and they could hold up that money, you'd have to file what's called a challenge of garnishment or claim of exemption to get it released. One way to prevent that is when the workers' compensation hits your bank account, pull it out right then or spend it right then, use it. Um, but if it was held up, you could file a challenge of garnishment or claim of exemption, and the court's going to order that be released. Okay. This person writes in, they're saying, I was paying a minimum of $30 monthly on my Home Depot card. I had to go to the hospital and was late on the payment, and they charged me a $40 fee and raised the minimum. I could not make the new minimum, excuse me, but sent them $30 anyway for several months. I noticed that they kept adding fees and my balance continued to climb. I looked at this as being punished twice. Okay. I contacted Citibank for help several times by phone and by letter, and I never got a response. They wound up closing the account. So Citibank apparently was the bank behind the Home Depot card. And then I got a letter from a collection agency claiming that I now owe the debt. I sent a letter asking for proof of the debt. They sent me a bunch of documents. And just today I was served with a summons about this debt. I really thought they could not take this to court because there is an almost identical issue with the second Home Depot account. Yeah, they could, if you ask for verification of the debt, they're required to send that to you, but they could sue you at any time. You know, they don't have to wait to try to settle the debt or see if provide you information. Law allows them to file a lawsuit. If you wonder why that is, it's probably because, you know, they don't want to take away the creditor's right to sue you. If they, you know, if they required them to wait, you know, the statute of limitations might be expire and they might not be able to sue you. So they can sue at any time. Says, I've not heard back on my complaint. It says, I'm being sued, being handled by an attorney's office, and the other one seems to be, apparently he's got two bills by a collection agency. So far, I'm preparing to file a motion to dismiss based on lack of standing, but I'm not sure how to do this. I'm very nervous and stressed over this. Not sure I'm doing the right thing. I'm 71 years old, and my only income is Social Security. I have no savings and living off on the little I get. It's really hard. I would greatly appreciate any help you could offer me. Yeah, you know, what's my answer to this guy going to be? I mean, you owe the money. You've been sued. I mean, you can defend the lawsuit if you want. I don't know any basis you have. You owe the money. You can just choose not to pay the debt. You know, if they sue you and get a judgment, how are they going to collect your judgment proof? As long as you keep your bank balance into which your Social Security is deposited less than twice the amount of Social Security you get each month. If you got 2,000 Social Security, 4,000 is protected by your bank without you having to do anything. See, if a bank gets a writ of garnishment, since 2012, they're required to identify where the money came from on a writ of garnishment. And on any garnishment, they have a department of the bank, and they can look at where the money came from. There's a code on the deposit. And if it came from a federal source like Social Security, they know they have to times that times two, twice the amount you get each month, and protect that sum in the account in which Social Security is deposited from garnishment. So what I would tell this guy who's 71 years old, his only income is Social Security and no savings, who's really worried that he doesn't need to go through these steps to defend the lawsuit. I mean, if he enrolls and helps, he's going to give us his other creditors. We're going to send them cease and desist letters so he doesn't worry about them. We're going to ask him to get us the name and address of the attorneys that sued you, and a copy of the lawsuit. It's usually the first 2 or 3 pages, uh, with a case number. And then we're going to send a letter to the attorney that sued you, letting him know that your income is protected. You're not going to pay the debt. We understand they're going to get a judgment. We remind the attorney of the protected nature of your bank account. Well, it doesn't matter if you're garnished or not, they're not going to be able to collect from you. So this gentleman is not going to need to worry. He's going to be fine. Okay. 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 Let's see here what we got going here. So this person contacts us from Louisiana, and they say, looking for assistance for my father that is severely in debt. Yeah, we help a lot of kids that are watching out for their mom or dad. It's pretty common. He is currently completing radiation treatment, and medical co-payments are accumulating fast. He also has some other past debt. We're gonna, yeah, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act applies to virtually any debt, like your credit card debt, bank loans, medical debt. Okay. Now, if it's a doctor that as far as the medical debt, most of it's going to be paid by Medicare. Uh, they're not going to, we don't see medical creditors turning you down. Although, if you're currently getting treatment, we wouldn't probably want you to have us to send a cease and desist letter to the medical providers that are currently treating you. Only if they turn it over to collections. Okay. And if it's a regular doctor that you're using, even if you paid him a little bit each month, $5, $10, while you're being treated, that would probably make more sense. You don't want to rub salt in a room, salt into a wound by having us send a cease and desist letter to a doctor that you're using regularly now. So this guy contacts us from Texas, um, had surgery, not able to work now on Social Security, getting behind with bills. Yeah, you can call us, talk to us. We'll be glad to go over this with you. You're not going to need to worry. So this person contacts us from Washington. You see, we talk to people all over the country in different states. I have not worked in over a year due to strokes and inability, lack of mobility. Uh, the farm laid me off saying they had nothing safe for me anymore. I need help with electricity and internet bills. The bank closed my account. Oh, yeah, I remember reading this. For no funds, and I'm behind in my payments. I'm at the point I can't even fill my medications. I don't know what else I need to do. My windows have cold air blowing in, and the baseboard blew off the house. Our heat and air conditioner stopped working in the summer. Storm with a lightning strike. Our house needs a lot of help, and we need help. One thing helps can't do, we normally can't put more money in your pocket, but we can tell you where you don't need to spend your money so you can use that money for your help. Okay. So it sounds like this guy's buying his home, depending on what he owes on the home, if maybe nothing, the condition of the home, he might be able to get a reverse mortgage that would give him access to funds to fix up the home. He wouldn't have a house payment. Uh, he doesn't need to worry about the credit card debt. He could use that money for his needs. In other words, we're going to call this guy back. In fact, I put this on my list to call him back if we haven't talked to him anyway, because it really personally, because it sounded so destitute here, and we should be able to help him. We don't want him to worry. So if you're in these kind of conditions, please don't hesitate to call us. We're going to ask you a series of questions, basic information, and I promise you're going to feel a lot better after you talk to us. So this person contacts us from Maine or Massachusetts. And they say, creditors are saying I owe them, but I don't even know who or if I really do owe them. I've asked for information, but they said they have already sent me notices many times. I never got anything. I'm on Social Security and have a small pension. That's all I have. Well, there isn't a provision for the law requiring them to send you stuff. They're saying they already did it. But if your income is only Social Security and a small pension, there's not a whole lot they can do. Okay. I mean, if they sue you and get a judgment, they can't touch your Social Security. They can't touch your pension. There's twice the amount of your Social Security that gets deposited in your bank account. If they get a judgment, is automatically protected by your bank from garnishment. So if the pension goes in there, it's protected too. So you're not going to need to worry. Now, if you don't want the creditors, if you don't want to deal with this on your own, you want the creditors hassling you, calling you, harassing you, you can always enroll in helps. We don't turn anyone away that needs our help. The cost is minimal, and we don't turn anyone away. Some people get our help for free. We don't want you to worry. You're going to be fine. Okay. And if helps isn't for you, please remember what we talk about here, and you can share what helps does with others. What we want. Okay, this person says, I sent a death certificate to a creditor marked no estate yet. I now have a letter from estate collections. You don't necessarily have to send the death certificate. You could, a copy of it, but you could also write on the bill, send it back to them, say, just no estate. Just let them know there's no estate. Usually that's the end of it. If they were to insist on it, you could send us a copy of the death certificate. Yeah, your co-owner, things are now yours. What if you're on Social Security and a pension only and then decide to work part-time? I would assume creditor can go after the extra money, still denied taking from retirement funds. Okay, so let's talk about that. Okay. Well, before anyone would be able to even think about taking money from your job, they'd have to sue you and get a judgment, which in itself is maybe unlikely. And then they'd have to know where you work. Okay. And then every state protects a minimum of $217.50 net per week in wages. Okay. That's $435 every 2 weeks, about $950 a month. And then some states don't even allow garnishment, like Texas, South Carolina. And then some states protect more than 21750. 21750 is the federal amount that's protected, that the federal government protects. That law, I think, was from back in 1996. It's never been changed. I think Congress has decided they don't want to fiddle with it. They want the states to protect more. If the state wants to protect more, the state can protect more. And a lot of states do protect more. Like Texas doesn't allow garnishment. Like I said, like you can make, I think it's like $600 or $700 in a week in wages in California. It's protected from garnishment. It depends on the state. But even if they were to sue you and get a judgment, and you put that money from your job in your bank account, as long as you kept the balance in your bank account less than twice the amount of your Social Security you get each month, it doesn't matter the monies that are in your account. If the bank sued and got a judgment, a writ of garnishment, okay, if they got a judgment and they filed a writ of garnishment on the bank where you bank, all the bank has to do is look at your bank account and take the amount you get in Social Security each month and protect that amount times two, regardless of where monies came from that are actually in your account. So to answer your questions, I would assume the creditor can go after the extra money. No, no. If it's in your bank account, twice the amount of what you get in federal sources protected. And that's usually pretty easy to do. Most people I talk to, when I tell them that, they say, I never have more than twice the amount in my account. Okay. So you're going to be working part-time. So, and then they'd have to sue you, get a judgment, know where you bank. So, okay. When enrolling helps, how soon do the monthly payments start? Good question. 30 to 60 days. Okay. And we can adjust that. So today is, if someone enrolled today, people normally get their social, we base it on when you get your Social Security normally. And you get your Social Security normally on either the third of the month or the second, third, or fourth Wednesday. So let's use today for an example. If someone enrolled in helps today is December 1st. Normally their payment wouldn't come out until January 3rd, but they could be enrolled today. But let's say you got paid on the third Wednesday of the month. Okay. So third Wednesday of the month would be no sooner than December 21st. That's less than 30 days. So the payment wouldn't begin until January 21st. Okay. But we make it work for people. So we don't require any money up front to enroll in helps. And payment is made by debit card normally. And so when we enroll you, we can enroll people immediately when they decide to enroll. We click a button, you're going to get a letter from us that says, welcome to helps, confirms you're a member of helps, has all our contact information, address, phone number, email address, and gives you instructions how to get us collectors. All we want is the name, address, and account number. Yeah, the fee is nominal. Remember, when you enroll in helps, you're not going to be paying these other creditors you're paying money to. And the way our fee is structured now is it's for so much for 24 months, then like $40 for the most would be $40 for 24 months, then $20 for 24 months, free thereafter. But you're enrolled for helps literally forever. And the whole purpose of helps, if you ever have a question or concern or worry, you pick up the phone and you call us, no matter how often. Okay? Time is flying. So this person contacts us from Ohio. I've been unable to work for the past 2 years. Have exhausted every dollar I've ever saved. I have sold off and pawned everything of any value. I have a lot of medical issues that have caught up with me. I think I need to help applying for some kind of disability before I end up in complete darkness and no running water. It would be greatly, yeah. We're going to talk to you. There's things that can be done. I mean, you can get on Medicaid that'll help for medical issues depending on what it is. But you don't need to pay any debt you have, any income you have, Social Security, pension, disability, VA benefit. You can use that for your needs, for your food, your medicine, for your water bill, whatever. So this person contacts us and says, this was on I think it was on a YouTube video. It said, Eric, I wanted to tell you that people have been asking about the SBA, Small Business Administration, and would they take part of their Social Security? Well, there is a federal rule that allows them to take 15% of your Social Security. They don't do it that often, but they can. Okay. He says, well, I talked with my SBA and they gave me 6 months of reduced payments, but you have to keep that reduced payment paid on or before the due date. That 6 months helped me to be able to buy my meds. And at that time I was having major medical issues. This is called an other agency debt. And while you can get on currently not collectible with this IRS, not have to pay the IRS, and student loans aren't collecting you, these other federal agencies like the SBA or the FHA, those kind of debts, which a lot of seniors don't have, but a few do, they can offset 15% of your Social Security, and there's no program, in fact, that gives them, that can force them to waive collection or decrease the amount. But this person told me they were able to get something worked out with the SBA. Now, if you make less than, I think it's $750 a month, or a little bit less than $800, then they can't take anything from you. But if you had $1,000 a month in Social Security and your SBA loan, they could take $150. And I've seen that happen before. Thankfully, not very often. Now, what could you do? If you had a big SBA loan that was taking 15% of your income, you could literally file bankruptcy and wipe out the debt. Okay, we talk to people about that occasionally, but that's pretty rare. So it's been an hour. Thanks for participating. We're going to be doing it at the same time tomorrow. If you have any questions, be sure and call us. You can put a comment on the comment. Please press the like button. And also appreciate it if you subscribe to our channel. People find out about helps more from these YouTube videos than any other source. So please share what we do. And I want you to have a great day. God bless. Bye.